Welcome back, everyone, to this week's edition of the Cart Barn Podcast. Your host, Chris Lemley and Gregg Dewalt. And thanks again for joining. I was at a golf tournament this past weekend playing a member guest with a good friend of mine and had several of you coming up telling us how much you enjoy the podcast. And it really means a lot. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a fun experience as we're coming up on our 1 year anniversary of doing this, and it's just been a blast, and for me anyway. And I think our guests have enjoyed it, and hopefully listeners are learning a little bit about golf in Alabama and enjoying the stories that our guests are telling. So this week's guest is one of the best, if not the best, senior. I'm putting senior in air quotes because he doesn't play like a senior. Shaw Pritchett from Montgomery, and he's headed to the U.S. Senior Am this coming week, and along with two other guys from Alabama, Adam Jacobs from Cherokee Ridge, Arab, and Robert Nelson, who's a veteran of the U.S. Senior Am. So good luck to them. But Shaw's got some good stories about his time growing up in Montgomery, and it's just been fun. You've tried to qualify. You're 0 for so far.
I'm 0 for 2 in U.S. Senior Am qualifier. I have been fortunate enough to play in a couple of USGA events, and they are spectacular. They're a lot of fun, and good Lord willing, I'm going to make another one of these days. Hopefully, more than one. But it's tough. You're playing against some of the best. Whether it's the US Am, the Mid Am, which I've played in a couple of those, or the Senior Am, you're playing against some really good players, and a lot of these qualifier spots, especially on the US Senior Am, they only have 1 or 2 spots, so it's tough.
Yeah, you don't go shoot 80 and get to go to the U.S. Senior Am. You've got to take it fairly low, or be around par on a really good golf course. So. One of these days you'll get it. You're still, you've got those new irons in your bag, and I think those will put you. Maybe why don't you just tell us what you just put in your bag?
Nobody cares about what I'm playing.
Yeah,
I just put in some new Srixon ZX7s, and I really like them. I've been tweaking them, trying to get the my gaps right, and playing pretty good right now. I haven't been able to play that in a while.
Srixon's one of those brands that's really good, but it doesn't get talked a lot about. And I think it just goes to show how much good equipment is really on the market now. And but I've got complete confidence that next year you'll make the U.S. Senior Am and using those irons. I do want to give a shout out too, since we're talking about U.S. GA events. Trent Alexander from over here in Florence just qualified for the U.S. GA Mid-Am. So, that's coming up. Good luck to him. But he's been a good player since his high school days, so good for him. But anyway, enough us talking. Why don't we just dive on into Shaw Pritchett this week, Montgomery's own Shaw Pritchett.
Welcome back to the Cart Barn Podcast. We are coming up on our 1 year anniversary here in a few weeks, and today's guest has probably been mentioned on more Cart Barn episodes than anybody else that's never appeared. And I'm happy and pleased to welcome Shaw Pritchett to the Cart Barn. Shaw, welcome to the Cart Barn Podcast.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me.
It's going to be a treat. We know you've got some good stuff for us this week to keep our listenership rising. So give us your best stuff today, Shaw.
I'll do my best.
Shaw, as far as I know, you've always lived in Montgomery. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in the game and when you fell in love with it.
Well, I actually started playing golf. I grew up in Monroeville.
Okay.
And I don't know that there's been a whole lot of golfers come out of Monroeville, at least real competitive ones. But I had a great upbringing there. Really enjoyed my childhood. My dad was a good athlete, and he played a little bit of golf, and he would take me out to the golf course from time to time. And I remember when I was about 12 years old, he took me out there, and we were really fortunate. We had a lot of kids that were my age out there, probably about 6 or 7. that we all were, they probably might have had a couple of months to a couple of years head start on me. And we kind of would go out there and just fight it out to the death every day. And the golf course just got to be my babysitter during the summers and afternoons after school. And had a great group of friends there. We all ended up on the same golf team at Monroe Academy, and won a couple of state championships for AISA when we were there. And just met a lot of good friends, not only in Monroeville but around traveling through that. And then I like to say that when I was there, I got recruited to Huntington College. Huntington was really good. Interestingly, they were my only real offer that I had. Didn't have a lot of options, so I needed to go there if I wanted to play golf. And just had an outstanding experience there. My freshman year was a little bit rough. Didn't get to play a lot, but the team was really, really good, and that's probably why. And after that, just kind of found my way. Had a great experience there. Had a lot of coaches, but they were really good.
Is there a Monroeville Country Club? Is that where you grew up playing, or?
It's a Vanity Fair Golf and Tennis Club, I think was the name of it. Vanity Fair was the probably major employer in town. They were a textile manufacturer, and they built the golf course. It was just a 9-hole course. Interestingly, it's 18 holes today, but that's so new. I haven't ever played the second 9. Just a little 9-hole South Alabama golf course. Not necessarily in the best shape all the time, but kept us entertained and kept us out there.
Mm-hmm.
Did it have a pool and everything?
Absolutely.
Did you have more fun playing golf or at the pool as you got older?
I was as I got older, it was probably more at the pool. When I was younger, it was more on the golf course. But there were girls by the pool.
What did you learn playing on a scruffy 9-holer?
I think that you kind of learn this is when you go other places, go places that other people might not appreciate. You really appreciate them. I mean, I remember to me. I thought Selma Country Club was getting ready to host the U.S. Open when I went there. I thought it was probably the best course I'd ever seen, and Selma it was really good, but maybe not quite to that extent. But you really appreciated some of the other courses around the state, and were in awe of the conditioning and the quality of the golf course. When you went there.
How competitive were those matches with your friends on the 9-hole course, and did any of them go on to play college golf?
Yes, almost all of us did. As a matter of fact, I think maybe 6 of us did between junior college and college. I think one of the better ones actually never did. He just went straight to Auburn to go to be a student. But I think we had 2 people that I graduated went to Mobile College. Had I think one maybe went to Troy, and then one or two might have gone to junior college. Yeah, while I was there, or right after. I left anyway. Probably a couple younger than me.
So what teacher did you work with back then, and kind of got you started and gave you the fundamentals?
Well, we were really fortunate. We had a guy that when I was first started playing golf, probably before I even was really a golfer, there was a gentleman named Henry Poe. And he was the president of the PGA at one point. I don't know while he was in that Vanity Fair. And so, I mean, he was just I barely even remember him, but he was a real class act. Had really wanted to start a junior program. Had a lot of kids out there when we did it. After that, had a gentleman named Peter Conifal that was there for a little while. But the person that was there for the most time that I was there was a guy named James Kaiser. And James was he's originally from Andalusia, and I think he played at Columbus College. He was an excellent golfer. I think, as a matter of fact, I believe he had a sister named Claire that was from Montgomery at one point. I think she was better than he was. She was an excellent golfer. Won a lot of tournaments. But probably when I was getting to where I was decent enough to take lessons, I started working with him, and really nice guy. Spent a lot of time with all the junior golfers out there, probably at a time of our lives when we were teenagers, and we probably weren't the most fun to be around. But he was he probably was a big influence on me early on. When I got a little bit older and closer to college, I worked with John Nichols in Montgomery, and John moved out of town, and while I was in college, I worked with both Brent Krause and Philip Hancock a lot around Montgomery. So those were both really Class A pros while I was
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yep.
What was it about the game when you first started out that really kind of got you, attracted you to the game and that you fell in love with it?
I would say for me, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, I think the competition. I remember when that time that my dad brought me out there, that one of those first times where all the kids were out there. I remember that I played now and I finished last. I mean, everybody was better than me, and didn't like that. And then I just started showing up every day. Didn't really have a plan, but it's like I said I need to be playing enough to where I can be as good as these guys. But I think ultimately it just got to be, it was my social circle. I mean, these guys, really, we had a great class because it was probably three, myself and two others in my class, and then like two or three younger than me, um, all really good players that we were a year apart, and spent a lot of time together. And again, it was just all my friends were in that little group.
So you go to Huntington. There's some coach transitions in and out during that time, but who was on the team? And tell us a little bit about what you remember in your experience at Huntington.
Well, so when I got to Huntington, they were coming off five straight national championships, I believe, and I think my class was the one that might have brought them down a little bit. But Dave Schreier was on the team. He had just won the national championship the year before. David Cothran was on the team. Brad Dean was on the team. There was a guy that they just recruited that was just unbelievable that year. His name was Nicky Martin, and Nicky was the Florida amateur champion that the summer before he came to Huntington. And it was just, I mean, it was really hard to crack the top 10, much less the top five. If you got on the B team, you were playing pretty good then. And I remember how good Dave was and how hard he practiced. And his senior year wasn't as good as his junior year. I think he struggled with his game. Probably knowing Dave, he was probably making swing changes for the future, which probably paid off. But I just know, Nicky. I think Nicky won 8 tournaments that year. He was unreal, on the golf course. So we were fortunate to be around him and learn a lot from him. That year, Steve Condon was the coach. He left at the end of that year, and we were kind of a little bit left in the lurch. I think a lot of players left when he left, and David had graduated, and he volunteered to be the head coach that next year, which would have been my sophomore year. Dave, Dave probably had more ambition to be a golfer than he did to be a golf coach at the time. And I think he saw it was a good opportunity for him to continue working on his game. That was it. Pretty much, Dave was the moment where, at Huntington, if you could beat your golf coach, then you were a pretty good player, because I don't remember beating him a whole lot when he would play with us when we were there. And we probably didn't, the players at that point probably, weren't, maybe quite as good. But, then I think the next year Dave left to try to pursue professional golf, and John Sadie was the coach my last 2 years. And John was awesome. I mean, he's still one of my good friends today. He really, he had a great feel for the game, heart for coaching. He had played for Steve Loy at Arkansas, who later became Phil Mickelson's agent and the coach at Arizona State before that. And he had learned so much, and he brought so much more to us. I mean, really a Division I mentality and Division I skill set. Made us practice a lot on short games. Talked a lot about course management, stuff like that. That really helped your game if you paid attention. And at that point we started getting a little bit better. Got some good players. Really recruited a lot of guys around Montgomery. Probably the biggest thing would have been Chris Blanks, who played on tour, for a little bit. Um, he was a freshman when I was a senior. Troy Maxwell was on the team from Montgomery. Philip Olive was on the team from Montgomery. Daryl Sager is probably a name a lot of people might recognize. I think Paul Johnson was the other one on the national team. And, you know, we struggle, but we struggle because we had to play against North Florida, who was really really good. They had a lot of good players on that team. They're rich in talent in Florida, and they recruited a lot of good players. I think a lot of their players either went to Florida, and then when they realized that was pretty tough, they went to North Florida. A couple of overseas players were there, and they just beat us like a drum all year long, my senior year until nationals, and we kind of came out. We really came together as a team at the end. I credit a lot of that to John and some practice sessions he had right before nationals. And we were all pulling for each other, and everybody was locked in, and we that week we got off to a great start. The first two rounds, I think we shocked everybody, including North Florida, for being so far ahead after two rounds, and somehow held on and didn't trip over ourselves the last two to get across the finish line.
That's a good story. That's
So what did you consider turning professional? What were you studying at Huntington, and how have you kind of maintained, your level of competitiveness throughout the years?
So I studied accounting at Huntington. I did it, interestingly enough, I'm kind of weird. Accounting came kind of easy to me. My mother is a CPA, or was a CPA, I should say. And it was probably pretty good fortune, for me to do that, because, when I did turn pro, I'd say it's for about 15 minutes. It was really more for about 9 months. But, when I realized I wasn't going to be a good professional, that, when my first job, really current job as well, first job still, my job was at an accounting firm. I don't work as a CPA anymore. Don't work as a tax preparer. I'm a financial advisor, but, glad I had that skill set and something to follow back on, so that I had a skill when I got there. But yeah, that was my background there.
What was your aha moment that I'm not going to be able to make a career out of being professional?
I do remember that pretty distinctly. I was playing on the TC Jordan tour, which later became the Hooters tour, and we were playing somewhere in Florida. I think it was near Gainesville, and I believe my tee time was 7:45, and I played my best round I'd ever played. I shot 65. I believe that was 7 under, and when I finished and signed my card, I was third. And I said the best I got, and nobody, and only two groups have teed off in front of me. I've got somebody beat me in every group. And I think I probably finished about 7 under for the week, and I was about 14 shots behind the lead at the end. But I had a number of good tournaments. I think a lot of people thought I was a good player, when I was out there, but it was just, I mean, it was a grind. I mean, they made us wear pants, and it was all summer, and you had to carry your bag, and it's kind of like I probably practiced less during that period than I did, at any point in my life, because it's like to go out to the golf course, I had to wear pants to practice or do anything, and it was just like it's 100 degrees wearing. Back there you didn't have these little fabrics you have now, so I mean everything was real heavy, cotton. Felt like it acted like a wick, just absorbing your sweat. I mean, you were carrying around another 15 pounds every day.
Yeah.
Do you remember some of the guys out there that went on to big things when you were trying?
Yeah, I think a couple of the bigger names. Charlie Reimer was out there, who was on tour and became a broadcaster, and I played a lot of golf with Craig Perks. Craig was a great guy. He was so good that year he's out there. I think he won like 4 times, and I just remember if I could be as good as Craig Perks, I could I could be somebody. Of course, I think he went to broadcasting too, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you mentioned Schreier earlier. Schreier had a pretty good career out there on the
That's right.
Hooters tour.
Yeah, I think Dave, if you look back, Dave was probably the most successful mini tour player in history, until maybe Chad Campbell. Yeah, might have inched ahead of him, but yeah, Dave. I mean, Dave's work ethic. I mean, there's nobody was going to match Dave's work ethic. I mean, he hit so many balls. I remember when he came back and coached us. There was a pro out at a course called Colonial Acres, and I think the pro owned the golf course, and so there was like a little room back there that he let Dave stay in. And so Dave would kind of open the gate in the morning for people to come out, and he would close the gate at night for people to go. And Dave would just sit out there. There's a little light out there beside the building. He would just beat balls at night, working on his golf swing. And of course, Dave was really good. Dave was really good when he went to Huntington, and I think he was one of those couple of unusual people that we got that probably made Huntington so good. I mean, Scott Warzeka, Dave Schreier, were really, we're kind of out kicking our coverage then when those two were being recruited. But
Oh yeah,
Dave just worked incessantly, and he's such a good resource. I remember a couple of years ago, I still see him because he's around Montgomery all the time.
Mhm.
And I just said, hey, can you just spare some time, come help me with my putting? And he came out there and looked at me a little bit, and it's neat kind of to see the point of reference he has, because there's some things that he has to say that I would never thought of.
Yeah, Dave's always been able to roll the rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you kind of transition after into the real world accounting and started, just maintained playing amateur golf and, what was it? Was that kind of a letdown at first, coming off trying to become a pro and returning back to the real world and playing weekend golf maybe and being competitive in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes like that for almost anybody. I mean, it's like you kind of give up on your dreams a little bit, and I probably went a little bit where I didn't play very much, and then got some excitement. I think again met some friends out at Win Lakes when I joined, and started playing with them. I think that you kind of get back and get going, and we at the time we had a really competitive game out at Win Lakes. I guess it's still competitive. It's just we're all older, but still same guys playing. But then I think like probably almost anybody, you say, hey, what I think I can do is I can compete for the state am, and what you start to get and realize is there's a lot of younger college players and juniors that are out there practicing every day that I didn't get the benefit of that at that point, but had a couple of good years in that, but realized pretty quickly that I need to focus on work for a while, but it kind of got probably in my 40s got a little bit distracted from golf. Still played, but wanted to try some other things. I realized that I needed to stick to my core values. I really enjoyed playing golf, and I enjoyed playing competitive golf. And I had this, I'm real fortunate that I'm around a great gentleman around here that I really look up to, and Emil Vaughn. Emil is a really, really good golfer. Is believe he won the first Alabama Mid Amateur Championship. He's won the Alabama Senior a couple of times, and he's a real class act. And I was just around him, and he'd talk about playing some of these senior tournaments. And he's a few years older than I am, and I was like, as I started getting closer to 50, is like I'd start asking him questions, and I was getting so excited. I said, I just need to know, which tournaments I need to go play. And he says, that's when he kind of broke the news to me. He says, in Alabama you get to play when you're 50, but everywhere else is 55, and that's kind of heartbreaking. I think we broke that same news to Woody Eubanks not too long ago, but
Yeah.
as he's turning 50 this year. But yeah, I kind of really over the year, last few years after I turned 50, I would just kind of pick Emil's brain, find out stuff I needed to do. He helped introduce me to a couple of people to get me in some nice golf tournaments when I was still a mid-am. And then this year I turned 55, and pretty much I just go play where Emil tells me to go play.
Yeah. Yeah. Emil is as you say, he's a class act and a very fine golfer. Had the privilege of playing with him a few times as well, and it's always a pleasure.
That's right.
Where all are you playing? We'll get into some of your most recent wins and whatnot, but tell us kind of some of the places you've played this year. Now that you've crossed the 55 number.
Right. Well, so I really wanted to get after it this year. I had a goal which I didn't achieve, but I was pretty close. That's a kind of a funny story. But beginning of the year in the World Amateur Golf Rankings, I believe I started the year ranked 30th, and I wasn't even 55 yet. And this is for senior golfers. And so I wanted to get out and play some tournaments, and the USGA will exempt the top 25 senior amateurs in the world for the U.S. Senior Am, and so I said that's what I want to do. I want to play and get exempt for that. And of course, the first tournament I played in, I think I finished 9th, and I ended up going from 30th to 32nd. And I'm trying to figure out the math on all that, but and still haven't got it figured out. But had a little bit more success after that. I played at the Jones Cup in Sea Island, finished 3rd. Moved up for that. I played in a tournament in Palm Springs. I was actually 2nd on the last hole of the tournament and made I think a triple, and ended up finishing 6th. And then I played in the U.S. Senior Challenge and finished 2nd, and then the Alabama Senior Amateur, and I'd say I won the B division behind Chris Devlin. I was 2nd, but I was 17 strokes behind.
Yeah.
Can't remember the last time I've gotten beat like that, and still finished 2nd. But through all that, it was kind of interesting and unfortunate for me. Is like the cutoff for the U.S. Senior Amateur, the exemption was I believe June 11th, and on June 4th I was ranked 23rd in the world for seniors, and on June 18th I was ranked 25th in the world for seniors. But on June 11th I was ranked 27th in the world, for seniors, and the guy that was ranked ahead of me in 26 was Todd White. So I had the distinction of being the highest ranked senior in the world that got to qualify for the U.S. Senior Am this year. Fortunately, the horror story kind of ended there, and I actually did make it through. Qualifier was at Win Lakes, thank goodness. Thank you to the AGA for that. Not that it was not without its own tests. I think I was 4 under through 13 holes and finished 1 under and snuck into a playoff, and then birdied the second playoff hole to make it through. So I believe it's next week. I'm going to San Antonio to play in the U.S. Senior Amateur. So I'm excited about that. That's been something I've been pointing to for a number of years.
Yeah. Back to the state senior. I think Chris was playing a different golf course than the rest of us.
Because there's no doubt. Of course, he is. He is a really good player. I've not played with him, but Chris Hummel is a friend of mine. He played with him, and he said he was unreal. Is what his report back was for that. So
yeah.
He's a nice guy. I actually did meet him, I think, a couple of weeks after we played in the same site for the U.S. Senior Open qualifier, unfortunately for me. He actually made it through there and had a decent run at the U.S. Senior Open this year.
Yeah, he did. So you also made a trip across the pond this year.
Yeah, a little bit shorter than I would have liked, but one of the things that I'd heard from a number of people is the British Senior Amateur was a really cool tournament. This year was held at Walton Heath. They're choosing courses that have 2 courses there on site, because they have the men's and the ladies senior amateurs. The course was phenomenal. It was great. I think they had an old and new course. The men's was actually the championship was on the new, but we played both of them the first 2 days. I kind of joked the new course was one of those. It was really, really tight. It was like it's probably normal width fairways, but on both sides of the fairways they had heather, which is it's kind of like those little cypress, creeping cypress things you have in your yard, that ground cover that you might cut back, and so they'd had it cut where you could find your golf ball, but man, it was hard to hit out of that stuff. So And there's just no bailout on a lot of those holes. You just had to get up and you just had to gut it out and make a good swing, because it wasn't like this, I can miss it on this side or that side. And I played really well on that course. I shot even par, and then the next day played the old course. The old course was a lot more forgiving, and I was really excited about it because I liked it. And I just shot a 80. I had probably my worst round of the year. Never got a very good break. Got a couple of bad ones, but yeah, it was a ball. I played. The courses were great. I played golf with some really good people. The course was what they call a Heathland course, which I would say is like a seaside links, just not by the sea. Um, and yeah, it was fortunate. My wife and my daughter it went over the week before, on vacation, and then they came back over to meet me in London, and they hung out with me for the week. So yeah, had a great family vacation, and then I was lucky enough that after that was over with, some friends of mine had planned to meet in Scotland, and we had a guys golf trip, the very week after that. So played a little bit better on that than I did the 80 at Walton Heath Old.
I just got back from Scotland. So where did you play when you went on the trip to Scotland?
So we went on a little bit of a different trip than most. I think 2 years ago, the same group, we had gone and played a lot of the British Open courses. So we went to Highlands, and so I believe we started at Castle Stewart. We went to Royal Dornoch. We played Nairn. Then we went to Royal Aberdeen, Trump, Aberdeen, and then finished at Cruden Bay.
That's you didn't get down to Brora or any right down in there.
No, we stayed in the Highlands, yeah, for the most part. I think the last time we went, our driver told us we needed to go up there, and I'll be honest, Inverness and was awesome. Aberdeen, I could, the city was probably not my favorite, but a couple of the courses were neat. It was kind of funny. We were playing Trump. They were opening up a second course there the next week, and President Trump was going to be over there, so that we saw the Secret Service out there walking the course when we were there. And let me tell you something, that course is hard. I think they just had a European tour event there last week, and you see these pros that always go so low. I think something like 8 under 1. It was not really low out there. There's a whole lot of pain and misery on that course.
Yeah. So yeah, we were down. We started at Gullin for about a week and played down around there, and then went out to the west coast. But it was. I think everybody should go to Scotland at least once that plays golf and
Yeah,
see that
yeah.
kind of golf, because it is different.
It's a lot of fun. I think the first time we went, we started on the West Coast, played a few rounds, went you know to the East Coast, and stayed around St. Andrews. Tried to focus on the championship courses. We played a few others that were winners, like Kings Barnes. Never heard anybody give a bad report on that. It's near St. Andrews, and I think their whole purpose is just to have tourists in there to play golf trips. So, but the course is incredible.
Yeah, we played North Berwick, and I was talking with my caddy, who's Katrina Matthews' husband. Just
Hmm.
got the luck of the draw with him. But we were talking about the bunkering over there and how those bunkers have been there for 100 years, 120 years. They've never moved them, and they're still relevant
Right.
in today's game. And to me, that's just astounding, because over here they're moving bunkers all the time to accommodate the upper echelon players, and to see those bunkers, and they're tiny. They're not these gaping bunkers like we're used to. They're just little pots, and your ball always seems to find them.
No, that's for sure. I think we were fortunate enough the last trip we played the old course, and there's a lot of bunkers out there. You say, why would they put something here? This isn't in place. As oh yeah, it is. It just, if the wind turns, it is. And yeah, I think one of those bunkers you're talking about was on 11 out there. I think I was like 3 under on the old course getting in that. And he said, make sure you hit it left of this bunker. Well, I didn't pay very good attention. I hit it right in there. About 3 shots later, I think I got out of it.
Yeah. So what what kind of attracts you to, what kind of courses are you attracted to, and what are some of the better ones you've played around the South or around the U.S.?
You know, I guess it's kind of funny you asked that because somebody was talking about this week in Fort Payne and Terrapin Hills and I'd gone up the Saturday before to play a practice round and somebody said, well, did you like the course? I said, well, yeah, not particularly, but they're giving a trophy out at the end of the week, so it's like I better get to where I love it pretty quick and but yeah, really when I play golf, I mean, I love these link style courses, that I like having a little bit of room to hit your driver. Um, I don't like really pitching out sideways. I've kind of got where I've not become a lover of trees. I like some of these older courses that are starting to take trees out and, um, you know, rough is penalizing enough and you can grow a lot of it when you take those trees out. Um, I think like the course I play, Win Lakes, is transformed so much over the years. When I was in college and played that, I mean, they had all these trees that were little bitty trees, and you could kind of hit around them and over them. And then I think all the trees survived, and now they're starting to creep in on the playing areas. But yeah, I love courses like. Was it Stream Song? I like those. I love the British Open courses. I like yeah, Bandon Dunes. Loved going out there. Um, as far as Alabama goes, for some reason I really like the ledges in Huntsville. I mean, I haven't played it in a number of years, but I think that place is really cool. Not necessarily the easiest of all the time, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a neat course, and you know it's like, I guess probably telling you I'm a glutton for punishment. I like Birmingham West. It's just a really neat course to play. It's in excellent shape. Maybe that's why I like it. I mean, I love a golf course that's in great condition. You know, yeah, love to gravitate toward those, but I've been fortunate. Yeah, it's like probably the worst golf course is pretty good. You get out there. What I find is like if you just find a course that you've got friends, people you like to play with, you know, it really doesn't matter. You could play something in terrible shape and you're going to enjoy yourself and you're going to laugh and you could also be miserable on a great golf course if you weren't around the right people.
Exactly. I'm just going to assume you've played Wicker Point.
I did. Gregg Cochran is a member at Win Lakes, and he's also a member up there. He's the last couple of years he's invited me to go out there and play. It is a lot like that. It's kind of open off the tee. That doesn't necessarily make it easy because the hitting in the greens is pretty difficult. I think that they made the par fives very scoreable, but a couple of those holes on the front nine, that are a little bit longer, a little bit bendier, and have some tricky greens out there are neat. But God, what a beautiful place that is.
Yeah, I'm kind of partial to Core Crenshaw Designs, and I guess that's the first one in the state. And I
Right.
haven't been down to play it. I looked at it during the construction phase, and it looked amazing. But I think Willow Point is very underrated uh, in the state.
Willow Point's always been one of my favorite golf courses. I mean, anytime they'll let me go play up there, I go do it. I think that's under renovation right now. We were out at the lake a couple of weeks ago and went and drove by. I don't know. They might be a little bit behind, but it's like I'm really excited for them to open that and see what changes they made. I think they're mainly around the greens.
To me, that was the maybe one of the best redos originally that I've ever been on. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm sure you played the old golf course before they redid it this last
Right.
time,
Right.
and that to me was just. And I enjoyed the old golf course, but gosh, when they redid it, kind of changed the direction of some of the holes and built. That was just phenomenal redo in my
Right.
opinion.
They did. They took a great golf course and really changed it a lot and made it even better. And
Hmm.
that place is just, I mean, just the pace of life up there is just different. And
Yeah,
the course is, I mean, again, it's really a second shot golf course. I mean, they give you plenty of room to hit it off the tee, but, you have to be really precise with your approach shots. And, it's just not real easy to just sleep your way around that place. You got to be thinking once you hit your tee shot.
Absolutely. In the intro, I alluded to the fact that you've been one of the most mentioned persons on our podcast that have not been on here yet. And the reason for that, guys, is people listen because Shaw is winning a lot of golf tournaments around the state of Alabama. And congratulations on your third senior match play
Thank you.
this last week, as he just mentioned, at Terrapin Hills. So whether he liked the golf course at the beginning of the week or not, he liked it at the end because he came away with a big trophy. So again, congratulations, and tell you beat in the final match. You beat your buddy and your senior four ball partner, which you guys
That's
have
right.
won that too a couple times, I think.
That's right.
Jeff Taylor. So tell us about the dynamics and just playing against your buddy in the finals.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a great experience. I mean, Jeff is one of my best friends. We play a lot together. When we're senior four ball partners, had planned that for a number of years when we each turned 50. I stayed with Jeff all week. Jeff travels a lot, so he's got a lot of Hilton points. So we shared a hotel, during the week, and we had dinner every night. Uh, you know, Talked about our rounds and the like. And I think that we got fortunate in the draw that if we would have ever faced each other, would have been in the finals. And I think it's funny. I mean, it's like, it's a competitive event, but it's like, I got done in one, he got done in one. We got in the car and drove and got some lunch, at the break, chatted with each other, probably picked at each other a little bit like we have a tendency to do, at lunch. During the round, it was a little bit, more serious. I mean, we both wanted to win, probably not as many fun, comments and everything, but we played a really good match. I think I got up on Jeff pretty good. He fought back, through a lot. I mean that golf course for a really tiny golf course, that is hard. They have these little bitty greens and a lot of rough and real tree tight. If you miss a fairway, those greens are so small and hard to hit, and next thing you know, you're chipping. And if you're not chipping from the right angle, it's just tough. Um, but Jeff hung in there. I know that I remember. I think I had him one down, and we were on 9, and he hit it in that left fairway bunker, and I was perfect in the middle of the fairway. And next thing you know, he hits up there like 4 feet from the hole out of that fairway bunker, and I hit it 12 feet, and then I made the putt right before he made the putt. So he was playing a lot of good golf up until then, and then he kind of ran through. I caught about a 30-minute spell, where he hit really is two bad shots and took one bad line, I think, with that, and I got up considerably there and was able to close them out not too long after. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, I like playing with Jeff. I really hate competing against him because he's probably, if he's not the most talented guy in the state, I'd like to see who is, because I mean he's got a great golf swing, hits the ball a long way, has all the skills. Just waiting for him to put it all together. For a week, because I know he's got everything it takes to win one of those. But he was great to me after we got done. Matter of fact, this week I've already texted him and said, hey, the state senior four ball application came out. You ready for me to sign us up? And so we're gonna get that done this week, and looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's it. Is it Bruton?
It's Steelwood, I believe.
Steelwood.
Yeah.
You ever played there?
I have not played it since they redone the greens. I played it a few times, a couple of years ago, and even longer ago than that. But looking forward to see the course since they renovated and did the greens and everything.
Yeah. Well, you guys have won. I know you've won it once. I think you've won that the senior four ball at least maybe twice or three times.
we won it twice. We had kind of a cool story, interesting story about it is that I'm a year older than Jeff, and we had always planned on playing. And in 2020, I turned 50, and my plan was we have another friend, a guy that I work with, that's friends with Jeff and I, and he's probably not quite as serious about golf as Jeff is, but we were going to play just to let me play in it, before Jeff turned 50. And then that summer, Emil Vaughn called me and says, "Hey, I don't have a partner for the senior four ball. Do you want to play?" I said, "Well, yeah." It says, obviously the answer is yes, but it's like, let me go let my friend down over here, in a nice way, so he's not mad at me. And so he said, who else do you want to play with? And I told him. He said, y'all go play good. And so I played with Emil my first year, and I remember going out there playing the course. With Emil and playing a practice round. I think we were playing with maybe Robert Nelson and Steve Hudson and Walker Grant, and maybe I've got all the names wrong, but I looked at Emil. I was in the golf cart. I says, I'm the only one in this group that hasn't won a state championship before. He said, well, you can do something this week about that. And he and I played, and I think if we might have been one shot back after the first round, probably. I think we were leading going in the last round. And we kind of started out that round, not really making a lot of putts. I think we had gone from in the lead back to tied for the lead. And I believe we were on the eighth hole, was the par five out there, and I holed out for double eagle to break the tie. And then Emil kind of kicked in at that point, made a number of birdies, and then I think we got, if I'm not mistaken, it was 15 was the par five, and I made an eagle. And so I actually played that round. I never made a birdie. I made an eagle and a double eagle, but never made a birdie. I think Emil made like 5 birdies, and we shot really low. I mean, obviously, when you 5 under on 2 holes, you overcome a lot. And we ended up winning the tournament, which was great. But after doing that, Emil wanted to defend our title the next year. So now I had to let Jeff down and tell him that I was going to play with Emil again. Well, Jeff just so happened, I think every tournament he played in that summer, he ended up playing with Claude Cooper. And so he and Claude decided they were going to play. And so we go to Inverness to play the state senior four ball the next year. I think, Emil and I get done the first round. We're pretty happy. I think we shot like 7 or 8 under and figured we'd be in the lead. Well, Jeff and Claude had shot something stupid like 13 under. I think Jeff had shot like maybe 9 under on his own ball, and Claude actually helped him out on 3 or 4 holes. And so they took a big lead, and then I think a bigger lead after the next round. And Emil and I actually played with them in the last group the last day, and there was no keeping pace with them. So luckily Jeff treated me better than I probably treated him, and he told Claude that the plan was for he and I to play. And then he and I won the next 2 years. I think I even remember at one point, I think Jeff had played in that tournament 3 years and had never been in any position other than first place at the end of a round, between the rounds with me and the rounds with Claude. And I think we actually continued that this past year at Win Lakes. But I guess the Win Lakes, the course was too unfamiliar to us. We couldn't keep pace with the guys that won.
So what does your trophy room look like?
So everybody says, I think Chris might have even said this week, says you need a bigger trophy case. So that's a good problem to have. So it's nice right now. I'm doing my wife a favor. I'm not storing trophies at the house, so I have a bookcase at my office that I bring everything and I put them down there. So it's nice. I think this was my 8th Alabama senior championship. So I'm so fortunate to have been able to number one, kept my skills up. Number two, kept my health up. In order to be competitive, and so many different directions that you could go, based on what happens to you. To make that different. I mean, it's like I was thinking about this call today, and it's like Chris, I think you and I were playing together at probably my seminal motivational moment, to get there. I mean, I think we played with the state senior am a couple of years. You and I were tied for the league going in the last round,
Yeah,
and it's like I don't think either one of us played like we wanted to, but I know Robert Nelson sure did, and
he sure did.
he came from behind and took it from both of us.
Yeah.
I think I remember that year. I think that happened to me twice that year. Both of them, Robert was at the other end of that, and I think I'd won the Alabama Senior Player of the Year that year. And when they gave that away at the ceremony, I said, if you know anything about senior golf, I'm half expecting Robert to sneak up behind me and take this thing away from me. But I remember, had a lot of disappointment about that. Was really, I mean, I think, Robert was something like 5 under for the tournament, and I think I was 6 under through 26 holes, and just did not close out the week like I would have liked. Just really felt like I was playing well and in a good spot, and after that disappointment, I just had to bear down, and did, and I think I won 5 state championships in a row after that, starting with the senior four ball that year. Won the senior match play, senior four ball the next year, and then the senior am the year after that. So
Yeah, that was at Valley Hill when you guys won that one that year, right? I
yeah, the
think.
senior four ball, right?
Yeah. And me and my partner Tracy, I thought we were right there with you, but we just couldn't quite keep pace. You
Right,
guys
right.
played
Well, I
very
tell you what,
well.
there was a lot of challenges, that week. I think we were tied for the league going in the last round, and nobody in the last group was doing anything, and I think there's that par five on the front nine that's relatively easy, maybe number 6 or 7 or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I kind of hit it. I was struggling a little bit. I hit a bad drive and hit it up there near the green, and Jeff had hit a perfect drive, and somehow he hit it out of bounds from the middle of the fairway. I'm still not letting him forget about that one. And I made about a 20-footer on that hole, and then I think me making that birdie got Jeff started out, and he I think he made a couple of nice putts after that, and allowed us to pull away. But that was a good week. I've talked to a lot of people that played really good that week, and they were like, said, hey, we played good. We can't believe that we didn't compete. But I think, if I remember right, I think Jeff and I set the scoring record that week.
Yeah.
Did because you continued to play at a high level as an amateur, did you ever think, like when you turned 50, to give the Champions Tour a shot? Because there's a lot of guys out there who you've never heard of that are playing on the Champions Tour now.
Yeah, I really did not. I think number one, I tried that before, and I didn't think it was for me. I think as well as I'm playing, it's like I'm still pretty aware of what my skill set is, and my ability, and I do think the one thing about the Champions Tour, if you look at like their qualifying process, it's not like these Q schools where you go get 25 spots, and they have all these avenues to it. Their Q school has like 5 or 6 spots a year. I mean, I think you kind of got to keep sight of the fact that the Champions Tour is an entertainment product, and their biggest nightmare would be Shaw Pritchett having a tour card. They want Ernie Els and Fred Couples and VJ Singh to be out there, because that's what draws people. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that I might be able to draw a crowd of about 4 or 5 people if it was in Montgomery, but you start getting that national audience. They're not tuning in to see me. I remember somebody asking that same question about Eric Hamilton a few years ago. Eric's a friend of mine that's now
Mm-hmm.
lives in Tennessee, and they said, "You think he could make it out there?" I said, "Yeah, he might could if he really put his mind to it, but they don't want him out there, so they want all these tour guys. They're licking their chops for." They were for Phil Mickelson at one point, but for Tiger and Bubba Watson and all these guys that are coming up, that were the stars of the PGA Tour, that's who they want out there. So I'm not gonna. Yeah, and I told him, just I got a pretty good guaranteed deal right now. So the last thing I want to do is throw that all away so I can go
Yeah.
on a whim and a prayer.
So Give us a little peek behind the curtain, Shaw. You said you kind of had to buckle down. What is it that, the switch has flipped and you are playing some really good golf and have been for a few years now. What do you attribute that to? What are you doing different?
Yeah, I think being very intentional about things. I mean, some of it is practice, but there's a lot of people that practice really hard. I think one thing I did. I mean, it's like I'm definitely not a physical specimen, but I have started working out and lost a little weight. I'm lost a little less weight this year than I had last year, but um, just trying to keep myself in physical condition. But it's like I think for me, I'd say far and above the biggest thing I've done is just focus on my mental game. I mean, I've always felt like I was a good player, played in mid-am stuff, played in anything before I turned 50 around here. And it's like why am I a good player? I'm always near contention, but I just never win. And I explored some avenues with that, and I'd say far and above that's the biggest thing that happened for me. Just trying to be a little bit more patient, being a little bit more understanding, you know, being more present, in the moment. I mean, that's the thing. Like I remember that round at Gadsden that we were playing is just like, focused on that outcome, wondering what was going on, when was I going to get to another hole, you know, and all that. And it I mean, you got to live in that moment and you got to focus on that one shot and make sure that you realize that nothing else matters, in that. And in the end, it's like it just, you see all these name brands that end up, Robert Nelson, a good example. I mean, Robert's probably one of the best senior players in the history of Alabama, and they all show up at the end. But the reality is the guy that shoots the lowest score is going to be the one they give the trophy to. It doesn't matter whether they've won or not, how successful they've been. And so I was really fortunate that I was able to kind of break through some of these mental blocks that I put up for myself and won. And of course, I remember going through that first state senior am, excuse me, that I won at Burning Tree, and that was one of the most difficult, nerve-wracking things that I can remember ever doing, and I didn't think I was going to get it done, and then when it looked like I was going to get it done, then it started to look again like I wasn't going to get it done. I remember I think I had a 4-shot lead with maybe 3 holes left on that course. I said, yeah, I can finally kind of relax. And then I caught a bad lie with some mud, and my ball kind of squirted sideways on that par 5. And then was it Kenny, the guy that finished second? He knocked it up there 20 feet from the hole and made eagle, and all of a sudden my 4-shot lead went to a 2-shot lead. So I'm not cruising anymore. And then I was starting to choke on a putt, and had my lag putt come up about 5 feet short, and he had hit it about 6 feet from the hole. And just fortunate for me is that he ended up missing and I ended up making. So I ended up having a 2-shot lead going last hole, and was able to get it done for that. But there's no doubt in my mind that I was physically capable. I wasn't sure I was mentally capable until that week. And I think once I got that done, that really gave me a lot of confidence to have a really outstanding year in 23, where I won all the AGA senior events.
What's your weekly routine? I mean, are you out there beating balls 7 days a week when if you're not playing?
It depends on the week. I mean, right now it's kind of hot, so haven't been doing as much, and work's been catching up to me because I've been gone a little bit the week before. But when it's cool, I'll spend a lot of time out there hitting balls and putting. I think really the week or two before the U.S. Senior Am qualifier, I mean, I obviously was pointing to that, and I was out there every day. I was, like Win Lakes is closed on Monday, so I was going to the Trent Jones to hit balls and the like. And I think I remember, if I'm not mistaken, I think they had even closed the range on the Sunday before, but because of rain. So I went out there, that morning and hit some balls out there. I mean, luckily I've got access to some decent facilities around here. But when I unfortunately, I try to cram for tests sometimes, but if the weather's good, I'll spend some time out there working on it. This time of year, you kind of trying to survive and the like. So I'm probably not doing as much.
Are you a practice on the range guy or a practice on the course guy?
I'm probably more of a practice on the range guy lately because I mean it's just trying to be good, I guess, conserve my time. And unfortunately, I do still work a full-time job. So, and as my firm is very understanding and gracious about allowing me to go play, I do actually have to get some stuff done at work. So,
Yeah,
I've got to show up and be counted on that. So usually it's kind of after work, late in the afternoon, stuff like that. I'm definitely not a hey, I'm going out and I'm not able to get like 4 rounds in during the week because I just don't have the time to do that.
sure.
Do you enjoy practicing?
Not as much as playing, but it's a means to an end. And again, you get out there in the afternoons, a lot of the same guys show up, so you have some nice conversations with friends. So it's certainly not terrible, but it's not the thing that I enjoy the most. But if you get it in small doses, it's not so bad.
Yeah, I think I've learned to appreciate hitting balls more now as I've gotten older than I did when I was younger and playing better. I don't know why, but it's just something about hitting balls by yourself on the range late that
Well,
I
and I
like.
think you appreciate it because you got so many things in the way, keeping you from doing it. And so when you get out there, it's kind of a feeling of accomplishment just to make it out there. And I think that you probably, if you're like me, is what you realize, like when you were young, you hit a lot of balls because like, if the key to success was to hit 500 balls during a day. And now it's like, those opportunities are precious. And, I don't hit near as many, but it's like every time I hit a ball, I mean, there's a lot of meaning and intent in that. I mean, you're really trying to get something out. If you're trying to make a change, you're trying to accomplish something. Sometimes for me, it's just, hey, I haven't had a chance to move around and hit balls this week, so I just want to do it just to, you know, regain familiarity with a golf club. But it is definitely when you get older and you're working, you got responsibilities and stuff like that. The opportunities to get out there are a lot more fleeting, and it is probably a little more enjoyable than it was.
Yeah, I guess
Well,
in college I've got to go hit balls. It's 42
Right.
degrees and it's raining. I've got to go hit balls. Now it's okay. I want to go hit balls. So
That's right.
well, speaking of work, I know that we're coming up on an hour, and we probably need to let you go so you can get a little bit of work done. But
Yeah.
Shaw, thank you so much for stopping by the Cart Barn and jumping on with us. We appreciate it and enjoyed having you sit here and have some of these conversations for a couple more hours. But be respectful of your time.
Well, I appreciate it. And I thank y'all for inviting me to be on it. I mean, it's like, Chris, I think I've seen you a couple of places. You say, hey, listen to this. So that your name was mentioned. And think about the first three or four podcasts that y'all did that I listened to that y'all were talking about me, which is, made me feel good. And it's always good to hear your name mentioned. So, I mean, y'all are doing a great job, do a lot of good work with these things. And I know it's got to be a labor of love for this, but I appreciate everything y'all do. And again, thank y'all for inviting me to be on.
Well, that's mighty kind of you. Thank you for saying
yeah,
that.
thanks. We're definitely doing. We're not getting rich doing it,
That's right. That's right.
but it's fun. So it's enjoyed talking to you, Shaw.
All right. Nice to meet you, Greg. Nice to see you again, Chris.
All right, buddy. Talk to you
All right.
soon.
Bye.
Well, we want to thank Shaw for stopping by the Cart Barn and visiting with us today. Some great stories, and he's a great guy and has really developed his golf game over the past 4 or 5 years. And I think he'll have a great tournament out in San Antonio this week at the U.S. Senior.
It'd be great if all three of the Alabama guys can make it a long ways in that tournament. Just getting there's tough enough, but to be able to advance to match play, that's the first goal, and then see how far you can go when you get into match play. But we wish them good luck, and again, thanks to Shaw for coming on, spending an hour with us.
Mm-hmm.
And next week we're gonna profile a up and coming professional. Maybe not the well-known name around the state, but Austin Jean from Florence, Central High graduate, coming off an Alabama Open win, is our featured guest next week. And he's got some good stuff out there too, talking about life on the road in the developmental tours. So looking forward to talking with him.
Yeah, can't wait to share that one with you guys. So we thank you so much for tuning in each week and listening. So catch us again next week for another edition of the Cart Barn Podcast.